And we're in.
Basketball season has arrived.
Yeah. The Kings certainly look better this year. I mean, preseason expectations are always
Yeah, we're the best.
relatively high. I think last year they won the preseason.
Yeah, we won for sure Summer League. We're the best Summer League preseason team in the nation.
Yeah, and then it just falls apart. But hopefully this year.
There's mixed reviews on Mike Brown, our new head coach, but all the players seem to like him so far.
Yeah.
I like him-ish just because he was a Cavaliers coach forever when we were good. It's hard with big sports. College, you can kind of figure it out because coaches stay with the same team for so long, so you can start to see what happens. Like, oh, this year he actually doesn't have that much talent, and he still did well. And the NBA is kind of hard. Like, obviously, certain coaches have large winning percentages, and you can go to stats and records, but, like, so much is talent dependent. Sure, some coaches stay there for a long time, you know, but, like, even 7 years isn't that long to me, you know, to really show what's going on. Because, you coach Michael Jordan for 7 years.
Isn't the deal that does basketball have the highest or lowest additional wins based on who's coaching? I can't remember that.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. It might be lowest. Yeah, meaning that the talent drives the
right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Baseball would seem that way for me, just off the top of my dome. Right, like there's just slightly less strategy from the coach. If you got a fucking banging pitcher and you have 5 days, you could hit the ball. They're gonna do it regardless of what kind of ranch or barbecue sunflower seeds he puts in your fucking locker.
Yeah, the Dorito flavors.
Yeah. Besides what that guy's, the batting lineup, I don't think is gonna like fucking make you lose 80 games.
It's how they get used and not necessarily how they individually perform. If that makes sense, like that so and so is good in this particular kind of situation.
Sure.
You can sub them in.
Yeah.
I mean, the problem with baseball is that once you sub for somebody, then they're gone.
Yeah, same with soccer.
But not basketball.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Which would lead me to believe that a basketball coach has, I can't find this stat at all, but I know it exists, might have more of an impact. Football potentially.
No, I think football. I mean, this is just off the top. Yeah, I would say football and basketball are the highest. It's just the NBA to college ratio. I would think is different because like the culture, and because like you're getting a bunch of like 17-year-olds together that for such different pasts. Or in the NBA versus NC2A basketball in particular, you're very least getting a professional. You get one rookie a year, who's 18 to 24.
Right.
But everybody else is like a professional. They've been in some type of situation. When you grab 17-year-olds from all over the world, you have no clue what their like locker room culture is, their winning culture, their mentality is. If someone's made it all the way to the NBA, they got something in them. Now it's on you to organize them. But like, Kobe's going to be Kobe, And I'd probably agree. I would probably say maybe football. Basketball, football, probably toss-up where the coach's impact. Because there's been a lot of quarterbacks. I don't know, maybe NFL, actually. Because there's a lot of quarterbacks that just are absolute dog shit, dog water, and then they'll get a certain system. But NBA is kind of the same. Steve Nash, a lot of people regard in the top 5 point guards of all time, but if he didn't have, like, D'Antoni, which, like, just kind of coached right up his alley, he was okay. He wasn't amazing, and then he won MVP, so it is kind of weird. We're like, my point is, like, Barry Bonds is going to fucking smack the shit out of it no matter what.
Right.
Like, no matter who's telling him if he's batting first or 18th, he's going to fucking beat some shit. Soccer probably similar. Like, I think there's some schemes and obviously putting positions in a player to, like, that's the goal of any coach in any sport, powerlifting or otherwise. You put the player in the best position to succeed at what they do or what they're good at.
Yeah.
But, the variables are slightly less. Would Barry play right outfield?
Left.
You put him in right, he's probably going to do okay. He's still going to catch some shit.
Yeah, depending. Like, later in his career, he didn't really have the wheels, which showed in the fact that his steals went down.
He's going to rip a hammy off from all the steroids.
The park that he played in has a giant right field. So
AT&T, what's it called now?
Oracle.
Everything's Oracle? What's for basketball?
Everything's Oracle.
Basketball's Oracle?
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's got to be unique.
Yeah, I don't know. Is Larry Ellison still in charge of Oracle? I don't know, but
I feel like most stadiums are like next to each other, or even the same city. They don't have the same sponsor.
Yeah,
right.
Typically not. Yeah,
because that's got to be insane amounts of money.
It's not cheap.
They're all like big names.
No. Wait a minute. The new basketball arena is City, I think.
Oh, maybe.
I think it's
City.
City. Yeah,
because it was Oracle.
It was Oracle
a year ago.
Yeah. And then now I think it's City.
That's crazy.
And it's actually in the city now, so that makes sense as well.
That does. But it's Citibank, CITI?
CITI.
Yeah. Is that West Coast? Because ours is what, Golden One, but that's only West Coast, or like even NorCal, right?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's a. It started off as a state employees, I think.
Oh, the like credit union.
Yeah.
I went to the first game ever played at Oracle Baseball Stadium. Because it was Pac Bell.
Oh, right, yeah.
And it was dad.
Oh, right,
dad worked for Pac
yeah.
Bell, technically. Like, we had all these phones we'd get all the time. I had, like, the first phone ever made whenever it came out. Like, my dad had an iPhone, like, a year before the iPhones came out.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know why. Just because he was management exec. Not exec, but, you know, like, something.
They were AT&T exclusive
right.
when they came out. Yeah.
We got a plug-in phone. I don't even know what they're called now. A regular phone, home phone.
A landline.
Yeah, we had a landline phone.
Or Matrix hardline.
Yeah, we had a hardline.
Yes.
It was sick. I should still find it. One is a basketball, and then when someone calls, the basketball peels away, and it's the Chicago Bulls stadium.
Oh, my God.
And it starts, like, ringing, like, Michael Jordan shit. And then we had one that was Pac Bell Stadium. So it's
That's probably worth $1,000.
No, it's probably sick. Yes, I'm sure it's in my mom's attic somewhere.
More than that, maybe.
Yeah, we have an Incredibles one that's actually really sick. Now you think about it, it's literally like the Incredibles of the movie, like, and it's huge. Like, it looks like a movie prop, but it's a real phone.
We need that for the set.
I'll find it. Ask Mom. We definitely have the Incredibles one. Probably the Jordan. I don't know where the Pac Bell one maybe ended up, but I remember going to that stadium because I don't think me and my dad went to Candlestick. I went to Candlestick once by myself, or not by myself.
I went
friends.
A bunch of times.
Yeah, and it was cool. I saw the Niners. It was like the Jerry Rice era. That was really cool. I'm in like fourth grade.
I saw a Niner playoff game there.
Yeah, that's sick. But I don't think I saw the Giants there.
I did see the Giants there a bunch of times.
And then we went to the A's a lot because Dad was an Indians fan, and they really played the A's way more, obviously. So we went there a lot. But Pac Bell, like, it is really fucking cool to be on the water.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Same with PNC in Pittsburgh.
Oh, never
It's
been.
also just right on the water. I haven't been there either. My wife has, but she toured it. She didn't see a game, but
I'm surprised we didn't try to throw our baseball stadium. It's technically like on the water.
It's close.
It's a rock throws. You know what I mean? You could have done something real cool.
Yeah.
If they wanted to. And it was all land at the time. Now it's houses. But they could have, like, propped that thing into the water.
They could have moved everything like 100 yards this way.
Yeah. It would have been cool. So we have the Giants AAA team here, right? It's still them.
Yeah. Just recently purchased by the Sacramento Kings.
Oh, yeah. I think you told me. You saw Barry was here.
Yeah, Barry was here at the end of the season.
No, right now.
Oh.
Like a week ago.
Yeah.
End of their season.
Yeah, end of their season.
Gotcha. Yeah, and he hung out with the Sac Kings, and then he went there and threw the first pitch, I think.
And I'm sure they all fucking loved that.
No, I just saw interviews of the Kings players, which I was actually kind of surprised because, like, now I feel old, right? But, like, some of our Kings are pretty young.
Yeah.
They're, like, 22.
Yeah.
I didn't even really watch Bonds that much. You know what I mean? And these guys were like, dude, I was in shock. And I was like, were you? Like obviously he is kind of a Michael Jordan-esque of baseball, and besides, like, a little bit of the tainted past, but these kids were all in shock. I'm like, damn. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Well, it is cool that he came up here.
They did a better job of covering up Michael Jordan's taint than they did Barry's.
When all the conspiracies there are interesting. You just don't know, because like I do wonder how bad it was because other people were getting like jail time and fucked up and on the news. So like, was he just not that bad and he was in control? Like, he could have been an alcoholic, but been in control in a sense, right? We didn't actually cause trouble, or did he have that good of people around him that they really did cover his shit up? Because there's other big name players that are getting. Allen Iverson, poor guy.
Yeah.
Allen Iverson, obviously, he's not on quite the level of Jordan, but he's iconic as fuck and good as hell, and he's getting in trouble left and right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So is it, or was Jordan more just professional?
I mean,
and hit it.
This is purely speculation, but it's always been said that it was gambling.
Yeah, and alcoholism.
And so he.
But then I've also heard, and obviously it's a counter just argument, is just that like he would never like none of it was to an extreme, and I don't know the exact definition of addiction or whatever, right? Like, I guess when it causes issues in your real life, that's kind of like the loose definition I use. But that he wasn't betting stuff he didn't have. You know what I mean, type of thing. And then like the big conspiracy is the flu game, where supposedly he had the flu. And even in the documentary, Last Dance, they said he ate a bad pizza or something, and he's throwing up and he scores 38 or whatever. That he was actually just hungover. And another game too, that he like ran off to Atlantic City with his dad or something to clear his mind, which sounds like all true too, you know. And like, if there's people like that, like I've had teammates like that, you know, that like ate like shit, ran. Like, we have lifters are like that, eat like shit, sleep like shit, chug beer, and they're still the best in the world. Like, so maybe he just kind of had some of those genetics in him. The only good thing I would say, and obviously I'm a Jordan fan, so it's kind of hard, you know, biased, but like it seemed like he wasn't harmful. You know what I mean? It's not like he's like selling his wife's car and beating people up. No. I mean, into some mob shit. Or whatever.
I think as far as teammates and other teams are concerned, it's just his intensity around being competitive.
Yeah, and everywhere.
Yeah.
There's a recent interview, not recent, bad take, a recent interview I saw of Kobe talking about business that way. And even in The Last Dance, I think Kobe and Jordan, obviously they're compared a lot in terms of skill and mentality. Kobe, I think, says once that, or Jordan maybe said it about Kobe, that Kobe's only competitive in basketball. And Jordan wants to fucking win everything.
Yeah.
Jordan has a water bottle and he wants to beat you in the drink the water bottle kind of thing. Like, he's just insane. Where Kobe's like only like that with basketball, and that's kind of where their relations end. But Kobe in this interview was talking about how he personally feels the exact same with business. Someone's like, "Oh, would you want to go back and play basketball again and be all competitive, or do business like you are now?" He's like, "I already did the basketball thing. Like, business is the same to me. I research it the same. I prep the same. I execute the same." I'm like, oh, damn.
The thing that always gets me about a retired athlete of that caliber is like, what does it feel like to know you're just not going to do that thing again on that level?
Yeah. Well, I mean, and like, yeah, what does drive
and maybe
you?
Don't do it at all, period. Like, maybe never touch a basketball again.
That's kind of where I am, and obviously I'm nowhere even near their caliber. But like, when I kind of hung up my shoes, Yeah. You know, I was just kind of done with it. I don't watch it. I watched it 4 hours a day. I was watching it. I was reading stats. I was watching shit. And now I try to pay attention because I still enjoy it, and I watch highlights on my Instagram or something. But yeah, it's such a different chapter in my life. I do wonder with guys like Kobe and Jordan, and it's easy to say because they were in such the spotlight, but that doesn't mean that they hunted the spotlight. Because they were clearly the best.
Yeah.
And so if you're clearly the best, and this documentary we're diving into today, the Redeem Team, kind of shows this side of Kobe, which I actually relate to in some senses, although all you out there are going to disagree, that the spotlight just like kind of came onto him because he loves to be good at basketball, and he works his fucking tits off. And obviously it was a different era, so he's not on Snapchat and Instagram, and so you can't really tell if he loves that or not. But he might get the same fulfillment from business as he did basketball. So he might, meaning that he just wants to win for him, not win for the world.
Yeah.
And which he ended up doing. I think Body Armor, I don't know if it's when he passed or just after, like sold for $3 billion or something.
Oh yeah, Buster Posey made a shit ton.
So did
of
Kobe.
money off
I think
of that.
Kobe's wife ended up with $1 billion from that or something crazy.
So.
Yeah,
probably
don't quote my numbers. 50% facts, but
she ain't backing off anything that she thinks they are owed.
Yeah.
At this point.
Yeah.
Like, she's not sitting on, I got $1 billion.
Yeah.
I don't care.
And even that maybe is some of his competitiveness too, right? Like, it's like, rather than, it could be selfish, maybe, but it could also just be like, no, like, my husband worked this.
Yeah.
You know, he put $500 million into Body Armor. I'm going to get what he worked for.
Yeah.
Whether it's for her kids or just for his honor, and maybe selfish. I don't know any of them personally. You never do. And that was actually my favorite part. Not to harsh segue into the movie, but to kind of show the personality of like Kobe and the guys.
Yeah.
That was kind of the best thing, and that's why I told you yesterday. You watched it, I assumed.
Yeah, I watched it last night.
I told you I was like, I think you might like this because I know you're not like the biggest basketball fan. You like basketball, but it doesn't really like talk basketball. It does, but a lot of it's about like teamwork shit. Coach K, I told you about, who I've basically been loosely raised on. My mentor, Dean Stark, my first basketball coach, and who I coached with. Was a huge Coach K fan, so a lot of his stuff kind of trickled down to that. John Wooden's another one that's kind of in that same ballpark of lack of a better term, like a very holistic approach to coaching. They care a lot more than X's and O's. They really talk to you like you're humans. And what's cool about this is you see clips of Coach K like that.
Yeah.
He gets intense in games and stuff, but you see him in the locker room and he's just like, he's kind of got like an annoying voice, really, not to be mean. But like he still gets his message so across, and he can say things insanely calmly that still feel intense in a way. You know, he's just talking, but you're like, oh, dude, I kind of feel this guy. And he's just like a random ass, little dude from like Jersey, I think, or Pennsylvania.
Well, I found the thing I was looking for, at least a thing that I was looking for about coaches and managers. It's a study by University of Chicago. Excuse me. MLB managers affect runs scored, runs allowed, run differential, and victories. They have a greater impact on runs allowed versus runs scored. So these are things that managers actually do affect. And obviously that can affect winning. NBA coaches affect points allowed and the point margin. They significantly affect the number of fumbles and penalties a team commits. Coaches matter more in college football than in the pros. They significantly affect points scored, points allowed, point differential, and victories based on those, who they put in, right?
Interesting.
Coaches are highly significant in both the NBA and Division I college basketball outcomes, influencing points scored, points allowed, point differential, and victories. NHL coaches matter, although they matter much more for goals allowed than goals scored.
They didn't compare basketball pro and D1, though, really. They kind of threw them together.
Yeah, they threw them together. Well, probably because they kind of track.
Yeah, there goes my hypothesis.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of. I mean, well, obviously this is one study, so who knows?
It may be.
But we'll take just a short break here, and we'll pick it up with the Redeem Team. We were talking about Coach K, and as I'm watching it, I completely forgotten about his Army background, that he was a West Pointer. And my late best friend, his dad was an Army colonel and commanded bases and stuff. And then he went on to be a colonel in the Air Guard. And he was a huge Coach K guy.
Oh.
But he passed right before this, right? Yeah.
Coach K's back to my hypothesis, just to prove I'm right. Coach K's been coaching for 80 years.
Yeah, he's been coaching forever, and
only at Duke, So in the Duke establishment is him. There's no way. Sure, once you get the ball rolling, all the best players want to play there because of the history a little bit, even though that's changing over time with TV and stuff. Like back in the day, Duke's the only one on TV because they're the only one winning. Mm-hmm. So now you're going to go there, but now. Western Northern Dakota State is probably getting some TV time, so if you're good enough, you want to go there too. But all that's because of Coach K.
Yeah.
Right? Where in the NBA, it's never that way. Like the Lakers history, why do you want to go to Lakers? Well, because Magic Johnson played there and Kobe Bryant played there.
Yeah.
Not because Phil Jackson was kind of there for 5 years.
Yeah.
And so just the culture of it's also different. But I think a lot of the really good coaches like that, I don't know if John Wooden had a military background, but I've read a couple of his books and I've watched documentaries, et cetera, and know his coaching philosophies in some sense and kind of that holistic approach, which in my brain, again, I've never served, so I don't know, but what I hear or see about a lot of our military stuff is not very holistic.
Yeah.
So maybe that forced them to learn that way. Again, Coach K just truly seems to care about the individual and how they fit into a team and leading with the team and selflessness, rather than some other coaches might just go team or individual, my star player, but that never works. You kind of have to see the picture and then place the puzzle, but then still care about the puzzle piece. Otherwise it never, you need your 10th man to buy in any sport, and that's really hard to do. But Coach K and some people seem to do it well.
I think that he took an interesting approach in that some kind of what you're saying, some coaches of a USA Olympic team, a team that's representing the country, might have been very team focused.
Yeah.
And, just kind of, we're just better than everybody, fuck everybody else.
Yeah, more nonchalant probably too because of that.
Or, or an intensely patriotic, country, flag, government kind of, what nationalist kind of view, like a lot of other countries would probably do. Yeah. His approach was trying to get them to identify with the other people who represent the United States on a world stage. And a lot of it was military, obviously, but I don't think 100% of it was. But it connected with them individually, not, somewhat based on their accomplishments, somewhat based on just who they were that led them to those accomplishments. And I think that probably resonated more than any other approach you could have taken, and probably pulled them together more. I think the point you're making about Kobe and his relationship to them, everybody else, that they actually make the statement that this was sort of this was the next iteration of Kobe. Yeah. This is like when Kobe really redeemed himself, not on the court, but among other players. Like, he rose in everybody's estimation as a person, whereas he was always on a high level as a player.
Right.
And he came into it with kind of a negative reputation.
Yeah, this era is what made me not a Kobe fan. And now in hindsight, it's easy, right, because of the tragic story and because of how great he was on the skill. But I was a Shaq fan. I was obviously kind of a Kings fan. I've never been a diehard Kings fan, but I grew up here, so I'm a Kings-ish fan. And that rivalry doesn't make you stoked.
No.
And I like Kobe's style of play, but early on they were talking about him versus Jordan, and I grew up in the Jordan era, so I'm like, I'm a Jordan guy, so I don't like Kobe. And then I don't think the media did it as well, and probably rightfully so, talk about him kind of being a black sheep. This documentary does it a lot, and that's kind of where I relate to, where, like, even though at my school I was lucky enough to be on the basketball team with my absolute best friends, like all of them, right? They're literally on my team. I still always kind of like felt isolated in a way, and I kind of just do in the world in some senses. And so I related to Kobe on that, where, like, I'm about the team, but for some reason I'm just like this, my puzzle piece doesn't fit perfectly kind of vibe. And the NBA never really did that or told that story about Kobe. I mean, the NBA, if you look at it, it's a basketball league, but it's one of the best marketing companies in the world.
Correct.
Right? Yeah. They build up these stories, and I think we talked about it a little bit with powerlifting and stuff. Like, that's why the NBA is so good. It's so-and-so versus so-and-so. So-and-so's mean, and so-and-so's nice, and so-and-so's this, and so-and-so's that. And it's Kobe versus LeBron, and now it's LeBron versus Kevin Durant. Now it's Steph Curry versus LeBron, and it's always these battles, and the marketing behind it's so good. I don't think the marketing would look good if you call Kobe the black sheep. They kind of maybe turned up his bad guy sense a little bit when this was going down, but he was still Kobe, the best in the league, and that's the story they focused on, rather than or like Kobe the hard worker. He'll get on his teammates, that kind of vibe, rather than he literally has no friends.
Like a heel turn kind of deal.
They kind of made him a heel, but they would never say, like, oh, he's got no friends. Right. And I think LeBron or some of the guys were the first one to say that in this documentary. Like, Kobe doesn't really, like, have NBA friends.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, interesting. And I do think the social media, and actually I know for a fact the Redeem team kind of changed a lot of stuff in NBA business, where obviously LeBron James went from Cleveland to Miami based on his friendship with Dwayne Wade and obviously the chance to win, but kind of like all these players taking lower salary cuts and stuff like that to build up a team to, like, these super teams is kind of a new thing, and that all started in this era. And they don't really touch on it in there because it's probably bad marketing for the NBA as well. I don't think they enjoy that concept, talking about the players running the league. But because of social media, because of this team that were all young guys, became friends, and then wanted to play together, it kind of changed the entire trade market of the NBA in a sense.
I actually didn't look at who actually made this thing. I normally do.
Yeah, it was Netflix produced, or funded. I don't know either. The Doug Collins ripple's really good in it too. Doug Collins coached Kobe or Jordan for his first couple years in Chicago. He coached the 76ers and a lot of teams in the league, and obviously played in the league. Maybe you know better than I. The whole amateur pro thing in the Olympics still confuses me.
They made an exception,
but
they changed. It changed,
but that was our rule. We made that rule, not the Olympics.
We made that rule,
right. But boxing, it's the Olympic rule.
Boxing is the Olympic rule,
they're all amateurs.
They're all amateurs.
Basketball, U.S. we handicapped ourselves, and then every other sport's pro, quote unquote.
I think tennis is pro,
right? Golf.
I don't think soccer is. Maybe it is. No, it is.
Soccer's rule, even though it might not be in the Olympics anymore, right? Shit's getting weird.
I think it's not. I don't know. It's so confusing.
The soccer rule I actually kind of like, and I think it was something like 90% of your team had to be under the age of 25. And then you get a couple guys veterans.
Okay, that makes sense.
So it's like half and half.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But they could technically be all pros.
Yeah.
Especially in soccer, right? Like guys are going pro at 16.
Yeah.
And then the whole extra ripple nowadays in this is that, like, what is a pro considered now?
Right.
Because you can get a contract in NC2A for Nike.
Correct.
LeBron's kid just got signed to Nike yesterday.
Because things changed.
Yeah.
Because it was that whole antitrust thing about, like, you can't keep them from...
Yeah, making the moolah and using their likeliness.
Yeah, no. The teams acted as though they owned the athletes as intellectual property.
Yeah.
And could put them in any game and make any money off any video games, sell jerseys, whatever. And that was ruled to not be a thing.
Yeah, so now they can accept any contract, sponsorships, etc. Plus the whole trade rule, at least in basketball. I don't know about other ones. They're not trade rule, but transfer rule. You used to have to take years off if you're transferring up or down divisions and all this weird stuff. Now you don't have to do that because of COVID, and that's sticking around. Like it seems like little rules, but stuff has changed a ton, and that kind of goes back to what I was saying where Duke will always have a legacy, and they still have Coach K, blah, 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 but kids can kind of play anywhere and still get to the league. They can kind of play anywhere and still get paid.
Yeah.
It is kind of like the maybe this is just a weird connection in my head and it doesn't make sense, but like the like weed's legal, but people who sold dime bags in 2005 are still in jail. That's like happened in the NC2A. I think Louisville's coach, kind of in my era, high school is what I mean by that, when I was playing basketball, got caught for taking cash by Adidas. He was sending his players that went pro to Adidas, which I actually don't think is that bad of a crime in my opinion, right? It's like, right? Like that's like me paying you. I'm like, hey, Jim, when Seabass, hits national level powerlifter, make sure he's wearing good company. Cool. And you're like, yeah, I'll take $100 for that. Cool.
I'm 100% sure that happened.
No, yeah, that's what happened with Louisville. And so, but I think dude lost his career and whatever. And I don't even know, like Adidas maybe gets fined for that, but the individual gets fucked for that? I think that's fucked up. Like, it's a no-brainer for him to say, yeah, like, why isn't Adidas get in more trouble?
Yeah, well, I mean, it all comes down to making money out of exclusivity. That's, So the answer to your question is it wasn't until the 1980s that the rules began to shift. In October of 86, IOC, International Olympic Committee, excuse me, decided to officially loosen its amateurism policy for pro athletes by allowing international federations of the participating sports to decide whether to allow professional athletes to compete. But it was a formality at that point, as plenty of major league sports had already been relaxing eligibility rules. Because it was decided on a sport-by-sport basis, not all professional athletes were given the green light at the same time as others. The IOC, international and national sports federations, chiefly all had to sign off before they could compete in the Olympics. However, sport-by-sport changes started taking place. The floodgates for allowing professionals to compete in the Olympics began to open in 1984. That year, the International Soccer Federation eased its rules regarding World Cup players competing at the Olympics. The International Tennis Federation began allowing pros under the age of 20 to compete at the games, and United States Tennis Association gave the thumbs up for pros to compete in the Olympics regardless of age. This began a gradual shift towards allowing pros in the
I wonder when the amateur thing even started, because, like, obviously you go to fucking Greco-Roman shit. Like, it was just the strongest, fastest dudes would go and compete against the strongest, fastest dudes.
Yeah.
And then the other issue, or not issue, but the other ripple in this whole thing is, like, when was basketball invented? Like 1923 or some shit.
I think it was earlier than that.
Yeah, maybe. They didn't even have professional leagues around the world. So, like, you know what I mean? So, like, we're throwing amateur because we have the NBA and the ABA in the 50s, 60s, 70s. Mm-hmm. But, like, there's probably no, Ecuadorian professional basketball league in the 50s. Mm-hmm. So, of course, all their guys are just named
Just
amateurs.
guys.
Yeah,
Just
they're
guys.
just yeah, they're
Just
just
guys.
It's the men's club.
Yeah, guys are pretty good at basketball.
Yeah,
kinda.
and probably even here, like I'm sure we had some kind of soccer league in the 50s, 60s, 70s. It wasn't the MLS. Even now, MLS is questionable.
Yeah,
on the international stage. It's so weird. World Cup's starting soon, so I know that's kind of exciting.
that's true.
That gets me going.
This says what? 1891 basketball.
Mr. Naismith,
Um,
Doc from Boston.
1988 Seoul Summer Games. Tennis was open to all professionals, and then obviously 92 was the beginning of professional basketball players.
Yeah. Yeah.
And hockey was 98
For pros?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Because what's the other movie? Miracle? That's kind of a good movie, too.
That's an awesome movie.
I'm just tied into sports, man. I cried during the Redeem Team like 3 times.
I didn't cry the whole. I just at the end I got a little bit emotional.
Yeah, like the Army stuff goes crazy. The Kobe friendship stuff goes crazy for me. Doug Collins' story about Kobe goes crazy for me. All that kind of stuff.
The Kobe stuff hits different, obviously, because Kobe's gone. And regardless of any darkness that might have been in Kobe's life, it really seems like he redeemed so much of that stuff.
Yeah, it can't be that dark if all his homies, or like not even the homies, but like the industry,
Well,
like all the bridge, like it's from fandom.
Yeah.
Kobe scores 81 points, fandom, all the way to homies. All see him in some kind of light. You know what I mean? Like that middle ground somewhere would still be talking shit.
Yeah.
You know? Like
the whole rape trial thing was not a positive for Kobe.
For sure
Kobe,
not.
obviously.
Yeah. But all that just is everywhere in celebrityhood.
And it's some of his reputation is a little similar to Bonds, because Bonds was just not the easiest guy to get along with.
Right.
He's different now. Obviously, he's not. He's not competing anymore. He's a good follow on Instagram.
I think people said the same about Kobe, because he started doing a bunch of podcasts and stuff as soon as he retired, and like everyone's homies with him all of a sudden.
Yeah, and professional athletes, celebrities, people, social media celebrities, whatever, a lot of the time when they achieve success that other people start to acknowledge or can't help but acknowledge, people look to them and say, well, what did they do? What was it about them? How can I be like that? Whatever. And oftentimes what comes up is very retrospective and kind of bullshit.
Yeah, for sure.
You look back and say, well, they did this and they did this and that. I mean, well, they didn't know when they did those things that they were going to turn out like that. They could have turned out badly, just as easily as they succeeded.
For every billionaire that wakes up at 4 a.m. and hops in a sauna, there's a million people in bankruptcy that wake up at 4 a.m. hopping in a sauna, think it's going to help.
Yeah, people get caught up because of what they're fed.
Yeah.
That these individual activities, their acts, are the things that cause the success, as opposed to this person's just good at X, Y, or Z.
Yeah, are there trends? Maybe. And would it help you, like, set a trigger in you if you wake up at 4 a.m. to be more productive? Maybe. But it's definitely not guaranteed.
Yeah, and Kobe seemed to me, even before he died, to be more authentically good at the way he inserted himself into things.
He's a literal machine. That's kind of the difference too between Jordan. Like people talk about Jordan's work ethic and stuff. I don't know if we cover it here. The Jordan baseball.
We have not yet.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, we'll have to get
there's
to that.
2 of them, but there's one that's pretty good on Netflix. Because now when you look at Jordan's baseball career, most people just say like, oh, he wasn't even a pro. He only got there because of his name kind of deal. And this one kind of argues it and talks to his single A coaches and talks to some of the baseball coaches. And it's pretty interesting. Some of the batting coaches from the Barons that they interviewed, they're like, dude, give this guy another year, and what he's doing is insane. I couldn't get him out of the batting cage. Like, he's in the batting cage more than any pro I've ever seen. Like, this dude's work ethic's legit. And for him to even sit on, like, sure, his numbers were bad for single or double A baseball, but they're like, bro, he's been playing basketball for the last 20 years. Like, what he did was actually insane. Hitting
is about, like, a couple of things. One of them is vision. Just being your ability to see the ball as it moves towards you, and the other one is reflex, and it's not just swing but swing where.
Yeah,
and just to make you would have a difficult time making an argument that he wouldn't have the basic pieces to make that work out.
Yeah, No, and he did. Like his coaches were ranting and raving about his work ethic and like his athleticism and what he's actually accomplishing, and everyone just downplays it. And obviously there were other guys that did it way better. There's the Deion Sanders and the Bo Jacks that played in the majors, but still, it's pretty insane. I don't know where I was heading with that. Oh, the work ethic of like Kobe and shit. There's just many people that work like that aren't good. Like, he kind of had all the pieces. But the main story is obviously the Redeem Team and winning. And there's like sprinkles of the international stuff, which is obviously even more pertinent in the Dream Team documentaries that I've seen. And they talk about the expansion of the sport. Yeah. And it's cool. And they touch on it, but they don't really get into it. That the result of the Dream Team making the sport international in Barcelona is seen in the Redeem Team. Because the Spanish team and the Argentinian teams that we lost to and played against had like 5 pros on each team. Yeah. NBA pros, sorry, like a better term. NBA players. Yeah. All-stars. Pau Gasol is an all-star. Yeah. His brother was an all-star. Manu Ginobili, they talk about an all-star. Like, they have all these pieces. Rudy Fernandez is another one that scorched the fucking NBA team, or the Redeem Team. What's his name? Rudy. Fuck. He's literally in the league right now. He's a little bit of a disappointment. But he was like 17 years old and played for Spain. Yeah. Shit on the American Olympic team. Like, the result is literally just 15 years later. Now we have pros across the world that are just as good. Where in like the 80s, there's 2 international players max? Like, there's nothing in the NBA. Yeah. It's crazy. Where I think baseball, soccer, a lot of those sports have been international. Like, this one just flipped its head over in fucking 5 years.
What's the timeline on NBA expansions? Like adding teams. I don't know that off the top of my head.
I don't either. I do know. I think there's supposed to be an announcement this year to guarantee a Vegas and Seattle team, though.
I think that you're right about that. But if you think about it, as the NBA has added teams, it has become even more necessary to reach out to the international market of basketball players.
College is doing the same thing. St. Mary's and Moraga down here has like a large recruit to the Australian teams. There's a bunch of Aussies in the league now. Like, what's weird to me, this is 100% a sidestep, it just popped in my head, is that I know the NFL and NBA have always been like tiptoeing the line of trying to get teams in Europe, which obviously even logistically is rough with travel and game times or whatever. Right. But we've had teams in Canada forever. Yeah. Isn't that kind of weird? Yeah. All right. Like, you don't think about it because you just think, oh, Toronto Raptors. You just think about it as an NBA team. Right. But it's kind of weird. Yeah. Yeah. And we had the Vancouver team for a while. Obviously, they're not there anymore. But like, that kind of is like, we don't have Mexico City fucking whatever.
We should probably.
Yeah, we should. Mexico City's fucking populated as fuck. They'd be down.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I don't know.
Sure. I don't know.
It's not like Toronto's known for a sports town.
Yeah, and we don't have NFL in Canada. No, because they have their own football league, which is different.
Well, they have something up there with the football.
I've seen a CFL game.
Have you?
Yeah, a long time ago.
Yeah, I've never seen it. I have buddies that, even our buddies here, we're gonna go play there. I just think the talent, because that's the idea, right? Is you need the cream of the crop. Yeah. To make anything really entertaining, like even right. Otherwise, AAA baseball would be just as, monetarily and visually as exciting.
And I can tell you that they do a pretty good job, but no, it's not.
And even that argument is because players go back and forth so much that you see how a quarter of the team is major leaguers. Yeah. On any given night.
Yeah, I think that's true.
Where other sports are trying to do that, I think the NBA Ignite, like the G League, is arguably the AAA of the NBA, and now they have a team called the Ignite, which I don't think has a city basis, and it's for a select few that get chosen out of high school to go straight to the G League and skip the college experience. Oh. Because the rule, I think, still stands that you can't go to the NBA until you're like 18 or 1 year out of high school, but they have this kind of like invite-only team that will play the other G League, AAA-ish teams, which is a cool concept too. They're constantly trying to bridge these gaps of talent. I don't know. I'm sure I've played some G League guys. I got invited to an ABA team. The ABA is still around, if you guys believe that out there. I got invited for a tryout there back in the day, and I played some like NBA guys that are like rehabbing and stuff. But the gap between like each, I can only speak on basketball. The gap between each like division and school is absolutely absurd. Like people don't know. Me and Kyle were talking about this the other day because people were saying, you know, people just talk. And I'm like, dude, like people haven't like met freaks. Like if you've played a fucking freak, you know there's levels to it. I was a very good basketball player. And I've met people that I shouldn't even been on the court with. You know what I mean? Like there's just levels to it. You know, I was pretty dominant in high school. College I could hang, but even that's a huge jump. Then I did some pro-am stuff where there's literally NBA guys on ACL, you know, rehab. So they're not going super hard, but you know, just absolute leaps and bounds to this division. And I think like powerlifting and like hobbies like that, like it's not there. You know, like Larry Wheels is much stronger than me, but it just and you look at him, sure, he looks much different than I for sure, but it's just not like he's just not like a different species in a sense. And we call them freaks, and they are. You know, they're very talented, but like if you run or move or play against like a literal good NBA player, it's just so stupid. And that's what it is. Even D1 players going to an NBA guy, you know, and now with social media you can see that like D3, like All-American D3 player plays D1 team, and he can hang, but it's kind of like, and then you go D1 in NBA guys, like it's the cream of the fucking crop at the level of all this stuff.
Yeah.
Or like I saw a clip of a D2 or D1 pitcher go to like a carnival and throw against the speed thing, and he threw like 95 or whatever. But I'm like, if he was that goddamn good, he's not a D2 baseball. You know, like his accuracy must not be there. His whatever his pitch, you know, like it's
might not be very durable.
Yeah, there's just
you know?
so many levels to this stuff. Where the top of the top, a lot of people, and I don't blame them, but you can't comprehend it. Like you can't comprehend how freaky Kobe is. I can't even, and I was in basketball my whole life. Like it'd probably be so insane to get to that level, let alone that guy's work ethic, which is another big piece of the.
Not only the games, but the practices that they shot. I mean, going back to the documentary for a second here, they shot a shit ton of footage all along the way.
Yeah.
You know, back in 04, 05, 06, 07, 08, that shows up here. I actually read that. Excuse me. They had a producer whose job was all this archival footage. Like that was his
just
job.
Go sift.
Because probably 2/3 or more of the documentary is this archival footage.
Yeah, or the post-credit stuff.
Yeah.
I love that shit.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I just love it. They're joking or they're on the airplane and they're fucking. I love that.
Yeah. Back to where was I going? Oh, the way Kobe moves, and the way they show it.
Yeah.
You can see that he is set apart.
Yeah. When he's 6'6".
Yeah.
And he moves like that. Those listening might not even have met a human that's 6'6". Everyone says they're fucking 6'6". Like, that's rare in itself. And then he moves better than I move, and I'm fucking 5'10".
Yeah. The new American League home run champ, Aaron Judge. We say American League home run champ because
a Yankee?
Yes.
Yanksters.
But free agent.
Oh.
He turned down extension offers from the Yankees during the season. So the Giants are going to take a run at him because he's a Bay Area guy.
Oh.
They're trying to get him come home.
Where'd he grow up?
Fremont, I think.
Interesting.
Something like that.
East-ish.
In the Bay, not far.
Yeah. The Bay's cool because there's so many different towns and they're all so different, but they still all kind of, there's a line through them all for sure.
But he's 6'7".
Yeah, I've seen him.
He's the tallest home run champ like ever, probably.
Yeah, a little anomaly like the Usain Bolt conversation, right? Most sprinters are 5'10", 6'1", 6'2". That fool's 6'7". Yeah. Still smokes him. You imagine most hitters are what? Like fucking big bomb hitters, 6'1", 220 type, Mark McGwire types.
Yeah. There's a pitcher in the Giants system who came up for a couple cups of coffee over the course of this season, who I think is 6'9".
Oh, shit.
That's
got to be 1 in a trillion.
Yeah.
How many dudes have even been over 6'6" in the MLB?
Probably not that many.
Because even a tall, quote unquote, pitchers.
But you think about the angle that the pitch is coming in.
Yeah. And the levers of your arms.
Yeah.
Some of it makes sense. Or first basemen tend to be a little tall. My buddy Lars, who I grew up with, played on Boston for a while before an injury. But Lars is probably 6'3", 200 pounds.
Yeah.
6'10"?
Who? Randy Johnson was 6'10", yeah.
6'10's insane.
The guy I'm talking about is Jelly, Hjelle.
Is his first name?
That's his last name.
Oh, that's a
I can't
hell of
remember
a
his
name.
first name.
And basketball, jelly is like style or like pizzazz. Like you do a jelly layup and it's like a fancy layup. I would love a name like Jelly. Yeah, that's good.
Anyway, though, where was I going with that? Oh, just to
like anomalies.
to be able to be that athletic at that height. Because I mean, let's face it, out in the world, really, really tall people are often very, very awkward.
Right. No, I mean back in the day, it's a little bit different now because the entire athletics have elevated in every sport. But like back in the day, even my day, right, like early 2000s, if you were 7 foot, you're getting a D1 ride. You could be trash. I played against 1 or 2 7-footers that couldn't tie their shoes, and a couple of them got like rides to UCLA based on potential because the amount, like, what's the chances that you're going to find another 7-footer?
Yeah,
it's just so rare. And then you get guys like that, and then even in the conversation, Carmelo Anthony, and he's like half in jest, where they were talking about Kobe waking up, the whole team goes out for like strip club or something, and
they went to a party. Let's say they were up all night
because they named the place, right? Like we were supposed to know it. And I was like, I've never
didn't
heard
know
it. Yeah. But it sounded like a strip club or something, and they're coming back to the hotel. It sounds like at 4 or 5 a.m. and they see Kobe in the elevator, and that dude's going to go to the gym to go lift or work out, and that was kind of like one of the iconic moments. It sounds of the documentary.
Everything
team
turns
building.
on that. Everything turns on that.
And then a couple of the guys start waking up with him. They're like, "Fuck, he's about it." And I guess that's like the more core root. We keep talking about Kobe being the core of this, but the core story of Kobe in this documentary is him having no friends.
Yeah, and he slides in after they've been playing together for a while too.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, I don't know why Kobe didn't do the Olympics before that.
That's a good question. I didn't see an answer to that.
Yeah, they mentioned some of the big stars not wanting to come back because of the political stuff with 9/11. But even before that, I guess that would be the only year, right?
Yeah, it was there was kind of a war footing going on in 2004.
Yeah.
They didn't feel like their security was what it could have been, and they ended up being on a cruise ship, which is exactly what they did with COVID, as a matter.
Yeah, but then I think Kobe was probably invited in the year 2000. I'm not sure why he went or didn't go, but then Shaq and a couple of these guys, Kevin Garnett.
They didn't address it, but Shaq was out by the time that Kobe went in. Yeah.
Yeah, I think part of that was the political stuff. It sounded like, and then I know even just from being a fan, a lot of the players were. The risk to reward wasn't there for them. Mm-hmm. They didn't think the Olympics was that challenging, and they didn't want to waste their off season or like every off season. Like Coach K said, like they kind of play together because you have to qualify, so that's a whole summer. Plus you have to practice here and there, and there's like FIBA, which is the International Basketball League. So you do I think you do even FIBA World Cup. They have a World Cup of basketball, and that's on the opposite 2 years of the Olympics.
And if you win that, then you don't have to qualify in the Olympic qualifying year.
But even in between that, there's like the Americas, the Copa de America, which is like the same. It's the same as soccer. They basically build it out. So there's like South America, North America, they play in like a tournament, then the World Tournament. So there's like basically 3 big tournaments that you're playing in if you're on that Olympic cycle. So I think getting injured and then not having any family time and stuff, right? Because basketball seasons are long. They're September to June if you are really, really good.
Right.
And so I imagine Shaq and them wanted off time, plus then the drama between Shaq and Kobe.
Yeah. If you were Shaq, would you want to see Kobe rolling into your Olympic team?
When you're on the team?
Yeah.
No, not during that period, for sure not. Maybe post. I think they made friends, 2010, 12, whatever, but I think at that time it was pretty high stakes. So I understand why some of the top didn't want to go, but that was the main story. Kobe having no friends, and then LeBron James kind of being the leader to open them up because their personalities meshed but didn't mesh, or were opposites but meshed. The other one was main storyline, Kobe known as, and even post this, as a Laker, he was known as a very selfish player, and a lot of people kind of put that against him, where he could make some plays, and people said similar critique about Jordan. They both had passing abilities, but didn't want to pass a lot. They were both good defenders, but wouldn't always put their shit on the line. I was even talking to Seabass and Avi about this, about like selflessness and team stuff, trying to relate it to basketball, and you can't always when you don't play basketball, but the best player often is the guy who scores the most. That's just kind of what the world sees and even the team sees, because you're the most skilled with the ball, et cetera, et cetera. And so a big point in this movie, and I think they explained it better than I probably could in the movie, but when you see a player doing the hustle plays or the quote-unquote dirty work as the best player, wanting to put your body on the line physically, jumping, diving for loose balls, kind of doing the hustle work that normally you just don't need to do. The team doesn't ask you to do it. Like, that's just kind of the hierarchy of being on a basketball team. Kobe started doing that early in practice, and they show clips of him diving over chairs and shit like that. You wouldn't even see that in a championship game from Kobe sometimes. And then now they're in practice for an Olympic team, and this dude's putting his body on the line. You see a bunch of the other players' eyebrows kind of raise, and then the 4 a.m. hotel deal. And they start talking about the whole team started to work out with them in the morning and stuff. And stuff like that's special. I've had a couple little things like that in my sports career, but like, there's not really things like that you can feel in the real world. Like, people can do team bonding stuff and you can do all these things, but until you kind of see someone just kind of lead that way, or the Pau Gasol incident. So, like, Kobe and Pau Gasol are really good friends, and Kobe goes to the team and said, no, man, I'm on Team USA, and the guys are like, all right, whatever. They know they're going to, he's going to play like his best friend, the only guy he gets along with. And then he tells the guys that he's about to run this dude over first play of the game, and they don't believe him. First play of the game, he just beats the shit out of Pau, takes the foul to send a message to the team that I'm here for Team USA, that this personal shit doesn't matter. I'm not a Laker today kind of deal. And some stuff like that probably made me cry. Like, stuff like that's fucking real, Like,
I had to take some moments to think about that. It's like, how do you do that? And what I came down to was fighting sports.
Yeah.
Because you could end up like in an octagon or a ring or whatever with somebody who is your best friend, and your job is still to beat him up. Now this was a little extra.
Yeah.
But
no, it was definitely a pure message.
But if you're a strong believer in the mental game, then stuff like that matters.
Yeah.
And he clearly was at that point in that moment.
I think the coolest part is that Kobe's been known for his mental game for himself.
Yeah.
Like, whether it's shit talk or going head-to-head with people, there's a lot of interviews now. I think one's with J.R. Smith, who's a pretty good player, not the level of Kobe, but... And I think he talks about, like, whooping Kobe for 3 quarters or something, and then the game's, like, tied. And Kobe comes up to him, and, again, this is a sign of Kobe's mental game or like, the individualistic nature of his mental game. And he goes to JR and says, like, good game, man. Kind of saying like the game's over, and then he just scores like 30 points on him in the fourth quarter. Game's over. Like, he actually started trying, kind of deal. And that's very mental game.
Right.
He was going 80% and kept up with this kid, and then goes crazy on him and could do whatever he wants. But the message he sends with the POW stuff and the early workout stuff tends to be more of like a team message.
Yeah.
And then again, you see this guy as this individual, quote unquote, selfish player, this kind of me guy, and now he's sending these messages for the entire team, for an entire nation, for a group of guys he doesn't even know, or I mean, he knows, but he just became friends with Team USA kind of deal. Carries a lot of weight.
The fact that that they had to change the way they played to meet the FIBA rules. And that's basically how they lost in 06, is that they were not – they thought, we can just go in and be dominant. It's like, wait a minute. These other teams from other countries know the game better than we do.
Yeah.
And the mental gymnastics to play a game that you have that many reps in a different way and then switch back to your major professional job.
There's a lot of little shit that I think they talk about the little stuff where, like, the ball feels different, et cetera. The 3-point line, I don't think they mentioned it, but the 3-point line is more like our college 3-point line. But I think the bigger thing that they didn't take on more is, like, and maybe Kobe did. Somebody mentioned one quote of it. But one, how long the guys have played together,
right,
which we don't have. But they, every other country in the world basically has like a junior high to pro path.
Right.
And we don't. We have regular public high schools and whatever. We're starting to kind of turn that way, but even Australia has something called AIS, which is like a boarding school for student athletes. And you go as like a 6th grader. You leave your family and you're half your day's basketball, half your day, or whatever sport, tennis. I think it started as tennis, but now they have basketball, soccer, etc. Half the day's academia, half the day is that. Obviously in Europe, Messi moved to Europe when he was like 14 to be basically become a professional athlete. Like, we don't have stuff like that, let alone the Olympic path, where we do now. We have like an under 18 Olympic basketball team, et cetera. And so a lot of those guys go, but because the talent's so hard, I don't think a lot of those guys go all the way.
Yeah.
Right? Because then it gets extra competitive, and then you get injured or you don't make it to the NBA. Where in Europe, not that it's not competitive, but if you're the best player in Spain at 14, you're likely going to be one of the best when you're 18, 19, all the way up. And then the style of play in general, not only by the rules, but like how they play was so selfless, and almost like I always considered it more like soccer based.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, that makes sense.
Yeah, just like how they move the ball, how they look out for each other, how they try to set up each other, and that's like what I watched a lot of like Argentinian and Spain stuff growing up, and Steve Nash, that's what a lot of people credit to his passing abilities, is that he was a really good soccer player in Canada growing up, and then his basketball kind of translated to that, like seeing things before it happened kind of deal, where especially in the NBA, not necessarily American basketball, but NBA for sure, was very individual. How much, how skilled you are as an individual, how you can get open by yourself as an individual, create your own shot. And it's changed a little bit. Even now, you could argue that the NBA is a little bit more European than it used to be, which I think is cool, that the world influenced our best, and especially in this thing.
Yeah, no, for sure. And the way that they, to me, it proves that they're really professional because they could make those adjustments.
Yeah, they bought in for sure.
Yeah, they could say, okay, so, at the bottom line, I'm a basketball player, and I'm going to play basketball the best way I know how for the country, the same way I would for my team.
Yeah, and to me, I do, who knows, but I credit all that to Coach K. Like all the selflessness. I mean, Dwayne Wade at the time was, arguably the third best player in the entire world.
Yeah.
And he's coming off the bench. Like, you could say, like, that's cool. He understands Kobe's better. Like, no, bro, it doesn't work that way. We're still dealing with humans.
Yeah.
Like, your ego's still there. Your feelings are still there. His feelings definitely hurt. And he talks about it a little bit, not a ton. And they talk about the newspaper clippings and shit that Coach K would throw at him. I love that shit. But you're dealing with, again, the idea of the holistic approach to handle the individuals, to get them to buy into the puzzle, to get the puzzle to buy into a bigger meaning, to be a part of something bigger than yourself, to have a common enemy, to have a common goal, yet still care about the individual, and have them ready emotionally and physically for when the time may or may not come. It's much more difficult than it sounds.
And I think that the kind of motivational stuff you're talking about with Coach K, that stuff you're playing with fire a little bit. Like, to what extent you're firing people up, and to what extent you're making them like angry in a negative and non-productive way.
You could do that same thing to another player of the same caliber, and it could shut them down.
Yeah,
they could suck.
You need to know what you're working with before
100%.
I mean, the essence of coaching is understanding your athlete.
Yeah, 1,000,000,000%. And that's so hard. Yeah, that's the individual holistic stuff to it. It's way harder than you guys think. Because you could think someone gets fired up by negative, by how they act or talk or whatever, but do they truly? Like, you're kind of a psychologist. Yeah. You have to really know what's going on in their little brain rather than what they're putting out there. And it's very difficult. Because, I assume that same thing. Notice they didn't talk about giving any of those clippings to LeBron.
No.
Maybe he doesn't, maybe Coach K doesn't, and, or does know that he doesn't work that way. It's so difficult. And I think some of it's taken for granted. The same with like a good boss or a good manager. It's much more difficult than I think the world understands.
And I wonder if there was a lot of Coach K talking to the NBA coaches that these guys deal with and say, give me some insight. Like, what works, what doesn't work. And because there shouldn't be any competition there, right? I mean, the coaches should be able to cooperate with each other. And Coach K has had such a reputation.
Yeah. I wonder the big move on that too, where because I think before him it was Daly that coached the Dream Team, and he was the coach of the Pistons, NBA coach. I wonder what the move looks like to grab a college coach to do the Olympic team after we've already gone pro.
I think it's probably the universal respect for Coach K.
Yeah, there's very little negative for sure.
I would imagine that was it. Personality. I mean, Colangelo made the decision.
Yeah, I don't know how that goes. It is interesting, and it's obviously worked out beautifully. I think he did maybe 2 or 3 Olympics. I might be wrong. I think Doug Collins maybe even coached some of the Olympics. Because there's a lot of coaches that are kind of universally loved. Doug Collins is one of those guys, and they mentioned his story because I think he was the only other team to lose in the Olympics as an amateur, because he ended up playing pro, and then he was a coach in the NBA. He had a decent NBA career himself, but he had a really good coaching career for a long time. And then now he's been an analyst for ESPN or somebody for a very long time.
Yeah.
But he seems like another one that's been very universally loved by a lot of people. It is, I don't know. Just when you dig into like the personalities of how this world works and how a successful machine works, interests me a lot because my mentor Dean Stark again, he's so good at it, just like Coach K.
Yeah.
He was so good at it. And at my school, you could argue is a little bit easier sometimes because the talent level was so spread, where you just kind of knew who the best five were. So, like, the next five couldn't really complain. Like, oh, why is Mike playing so much? Like, Mike's clearly better than you. You know, like, that's just kind of how it goes. Where you go to a Duke or an Olympic team, and you're like, why is Kobe playing so much over Dwayne Wade? Like, Dwayne Wade's really fucking good. And you can't make that argument as much, right? There's much more blurred lines. And then you get the egos involved. And then with kids, you get the parents involved. And, you know, like, it gets really complicated. And even at the D1, right? Like, scholarship kids might not always get the most minutes because maybe they don't fit the system as well or personality or whatever. But for Coach K to make that all mesh like a perfect recipe is I think highly underrated.
I think that, and I don't know this, but I think that an approach that works is, you know, semantically we use the expression role player.
Yeah.
To talk about someone who is a little bit more of a little bit more of a journeyman, someone more of a utility type player. Yep. But if you can make the point that everyone's a role player.
Yeah, that's definitely what he did with like this Olympic team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like everyone's a role player. Everyone's got a particular thing to contribute. And as long as you were there making your contribution, you were just as valuable as everybody else.
Yeah, we use that term a lot when I coached and played, is just do your job.
Yeah.
Know what your job is and do your job. Like, Kyle, your job isn't to shoot threes right now. Your job is to rebound.
Yeah.
Do your job. This guy shoots threes. Let that guy shoot threes. Do your job.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it is simple. Yeah, you're right. A lot of it is how you frame it, and a lot of it's culturally, too, and the sport in general. Like, scoring is the coolest. So then we automatically make scoring the most important. Mm-hmm. But as we know, if anyone's played any real sports, it's just as important to play defense.
Yeah.
Because you could score all the points you want, but if they're scoring all the points you lose, right, it's just as important to get a rebound. There's another possession. Like, it's really hard to within – and that's like maybe why I even stepped away from sports even more, because I analyzed the living fuck out of basketball growing up. And so, like, it almost pisses me off to – hear people talk about basketball in a sense, in almost like a pretentious way from me, just because I'm like, you're just wrong. Like, that's just not how it goes. You know what I mean? Because and that's not fair for me to judge them either, because they just haven't had the same experiences I've had or whatever. Analyze it. It's the same with lifting, right? Like we both probably get a little perturbed when we hear like a newbie talk about a certain thing. And we're like, yeah, man, like your grip on bench doesn't matter that much. What the fuck are you talking about? It doesn't work that way, or you know, people just frame things a weird way, and it's just from lack of experience. It's not from a thing, but it does get annoying when you've lived this so long and so much. So I think I detached myself from that world. But it's the same idea. Yeah, the world likes Kobe because he fucking dunks hard. Yeah.
And circling back to something you were saying about Kobe being known as a selfish player, I can say from experience, sometimes I just do things myself because it's easier to know that it's done when I do it myself.
Sure.
And part of that comes down to trusting other people, and for him, trusting teammates, trusting coaching, trusting scheme. And he's like, I'm not going to sacrifice any of what I can accomplish in the name of any of these other things. And this, at least for this run of the Redeem team, it seems like he was willing to be more giving and more coachable and more
I think
more the team player.
No, I think you hit it on the head. Like, when you break it down like that, it's probably just true too. Like, you can call him selfish or you can call him just honest, where like on the Lakers, he is the best scorer.
Right.
So he's probably going to put up the most amount of shots because he also knows he's the best scorer.
Right.
Now he's next to LeBron James. LeBron James is also very good.
Yeah.
It's probably easier to trust when you know you're on a team. And that team was actually kind of like a fuddled team For those basketball fans out there, like I think they had Deron Williams, who had like a really good 3 years, but like people don't even talk about him anymore. He was one of the point guards on the team. People don't even mention him in like the top 20, but for his little run, he was probably a top 20 player. Obviously, Chris Paul, people still talk about. I think I don't know if Nash was on that team or not. I don't know who their other main point guard was. Oh no, Nash is Canadian.
Yeah,
I was just thinking the era. Dwight Howard, people kind of talk about, but not really. But he was on that team. Carlos Boozer is a lot in this documentary, which is kind of funny because, again, no one talks about him, but he was very good at the time. He played with our boy Luol Deng for a long time in Chicago. Yeah. And Carlos was really, really good, but no one's even talking about him being a top 10 power forward of all time. He might be, but point is, at that very moment, picturesque in time, he probably, there's 10 or 12 people on the Olympic team. He probably is with like 8 of the best in the world.
Yeah.
You know, because Shaq isn't there and a couple others. But so, yeah, it becomes easier to trust.
Yeah.
For sure, right? Like, me and you run this business, and we trust our guys, and we try to put them in the best role. But if Bart Kwan's here, another great, very successful businessman, it's probably much easier for us to trust him doing certain things because we know he has the experience, we know he has the skills, and he has the years underneath his belt.
Right.
Where some of our employees are younger, or they don't have this experience over here, they only have this experience over here, and so
we're on a journey together.
So rather than
we've been on our journey together for a long time, but
right?
Their journey, they're just joining the journey,
right?
It's all new, and
that's probably what it is with Kobe and the Lakers, right? Like on the Lakers, you could have really good players, and he did. This kid Andrew Bynum, but the dude's 19. So like, if I'm Kobe, I'm taking the last shot too. I ain't gonna get to this 19-year-old. Like some of it's logical sense, but from the outside, it does look selfish. And then again, the marketing, how to paint him as the enemy versus the smiley. That was the big thing for a long time, was how he's like always serious in games. And in this documentary brings it up too. But LeBron James, Dwight Howard, Shaq, they're joking in games. And for a while, it seemed like, they didn't care as much or whatever, and that was kind of the marketing portrait. But, like, personalities are personalities. Doesn't mean you don't care.
Towards a conclusion of this episode, I will say that, like, really the world misses the Kobe perspective.
Yeah. The only interview is, like, a random one from 2015.
Yeah, and it's and it is too bad that we don't have him here to talk about this stuff now, or whatever else he wants to talk about. I mean, he was really, branching out, getting into television production stuff in ways that I don't think anybody else.
I think he won an Emmy.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, it is interesting to me talking about like celebrities and celebrities dying. I think we brought it up on the Lost podcast about athletes being in the face or in the public eye much more than celebrities.
Yeah,
who tend to like hide behind walls in a way. Like, little things like I know LeBron James drives the new electric Hummer, just because he posted on his Instagram or whatever. I have no clue what Johnny Depp drives.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Or like little whatever the fuck. That's the first thing that popped in my head. Like, you just know little stuff. LeBron James' son had a birthday party this last weekend, and Travis Scott's his friend and performed at a house party.
Yeah. I
have no clue what George Clooney did for his birthday.
No.
Right? Like little things like that. And LeBron's just the first example that's popping in my head because of this. But other celebrities, athletes tend to be on Instagram or tend to tweet at each other and kind of play the pop culture game where like actors kind of disappear.
Yeah, it's B's and C's and D level actors. Yeah. It's not the A levels that really play the social media game themselves.
Yeah, and even still, it seems like hip hop and R&B kind of does, and then certain, like Red Hot Chili Peppers Instagram ain't active, but like Drake is all over.
Red Hot Chili Peppers are my age, so there's the answer to that question.
That too, but I love them. But whoever it might be, whatever rock and roll band's cool now, I don't even fucking know. Where Drake's showing him playing pickup basketball in his backyard and shit like that.
Right.
I don't know where I was going with that. Oh, Kobe. About people like dying and celebrity-hoods dying, and maybe that plays a role in it, right? Like Michael Jackson is such a different. I don't know, maybe not. But Michael Jackson is this world phenomena, right?
Yeah.
And they referenced Kobe to Michael Jackson in this phenomena in terms of how he was popular in China.
Yeah.
And Michael Jackson, I think because of safety, because he was a little weird, probably because of allegations, a mixture of things. Plus, he was literally the most famous person on the planet for 40 years. He seemed to live very hidden life, and there's very few interviews. And even when he passed in 2010, 2011, 2012, there wasn't stuff going on. people don't talk about Michael Jackson now, besides his music. Like, oh, yeah, Billie Jean, great song, whatever.
Yeah.
Where Kobe, and maybe it's just because of the generation and because maybe it's a little more fresh, but again, I don't remember this happening after Michael Jackson died for the 5 years. I'm on TikTok, and there's constant clips of Kobe. There's constant clips of his audio or interviews. And maybe some of it's the algorithm I'm in a basketball algorithm. But still, I'm in a hip-hop or I love Michael Jackson. I'm in a bunch of music algorithms, too, and that stuff's not popping up. Or Mac Miller here and there, maybe a little bit, because he was a little bit younger and maybe the voice of a generation. Some of his clips will pop up with, like, some funny things he said or inspirational things. But Kobe does really seem to kind of transcend this afterlife.
Yeah.
But also the culture, because when you hear him speak, he doesn't have any of that, like, selfish shit.
No, he sounds like a totally genuine, down-to-earth.
Yeah, he sounds really good, dude.
Normal, smart person.
Crazy intelligent. I think he ended up with a degree, but he didn't go to college. He's a smart cat.
How many languages did he speak? He spoke Italian.
Yeah.
He spoke English.
I mean, he basically grew up in Italy. I think it's Spanish, Italian.
You make a joke about that in the...
There's
LeBron makes a joke about that.
There's an even funnier one. Where's Luka Doncic from? From Lithuania, maybe?
Something like that.
I don't know, but before Kobe passed, Luka's this up-and-coming kid in the NBA, and this year, arguably, he's going to win MVP. You guys can put my name on that. But there's a story of him, like, playing in one of his first couple years of the NBA, and he hears someone yelling his, like, language to him, whether it's Lithuania or not. It was fucking Kobe, fucking with him. Yeah, like, stuff like that. Like, just, it seems so fun. It seems so funny. I don't know why, but his cultural impact seems to... Even in an era where it's 12-hour news cycle, seems like Kobe's cultural impact is maybe the biggest I can say for probably an athlete. Muhammad Ali still gets a lot of love, but Kobe might be over any celebrity that's passed. Like, sure, people talk about Elvis, and there's the Elvis movie, but, like, in terms of everyday shit, I see Kobe stuff everywhere.
People didn't know Elvis. That's a big part of it. People didn't know Elvis.
Yeah, and in social media, that's the beauty of it, I guess, too. And you want to call it branding or marketing. You can let people know you in a way. I don't know. But I can easily say I'm much more of a Kobe fan than I used to be. My respect for Kobe was always high, but I also never played like him. I wasn't a scorer, so I never, like, analyze that type of shit. And then again, he was the evil guy when I was really into basketball, and he was the anti-Jordan, and I was the Jordan guy. So a lot of that changed my perspective on it. But hearing stories like this makes me even more of a fan.
I think it's fair to say that people can figure out that we actually like this. So
it's pretty good, right?
We would recommend it. It's a little bit longer than I wish it was.
Yeah, because they want to dive into the history, and then they want to dive into the Kobe and the current and then the future in a way.
There's sort of 3 parts to it, and
they set it up so you don't have to know anything about basketball or the Dream Team.
Yeah.
Even though everyone, and maybe this is my bias, but you should kind of know about the Dream Team, whether you like basketball or not. Yeah. It's just kind of iconic. So I agree. They kind of could have skipped some of that, but then they want to round it out with the Doug Collins. They want to make it heartfelt, so they try to get all these lines going. I agree. And it's not fast, per se.
No.
But there is, like, good info, and I think it's well shot. And personally, again, it talks a lot about, like, the chemistry and, like, interpersonal relationships, which is, again, I like the barbell because I think it's good for everyone. It's like a microphone for me to speak to the world through strength training. Basketball, I do love the sport, and I like the semantics of it and the strategy, but, like, the team building and the cohesiveness within basketball is so different than every other sport to me because every player is needed and capable of doing everything in the game, where that doesn't happen in any other sport. Like, goalies ain't scoring goals. Right? Goalies, you're not even allowed to touch the ball for 90% of the positions in football. Yeah. Right? So, like, things like that have always drawn me to the sport, but the interpersonal relationships and how small the team is, that is allowed and it's needed. Or even Kyle talks about, our GM played pro baseball for a long time. He's like, I didn't even know all the guys on the team, like they go over there and do their thing, and I'm over here with the pitchers. That's just how we go. And Dan and Marcus, our buddies, played D1 football. They're like, yeah, dude, you just play with your positions. I didn't know the running back, or I didn't know the quarterback. Like, we fist bumped, and that was that.
That was it. Yeah. If you'd ever watched LeBron's HBO show, The Shop.
I never did.
You will enjoy this, and vice versa. If you watch this and enjoyed this, you'll enjoy that because it leans in on the conversational, individual perspective of whatever they're talking about.
I've seen clips of it, and then
it's very, very good.
Really, Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson. Matt Barnes, Sacramento local. They have a podcast. And they're both
Yeah.
pretty good NBA players, and they obviously get the exclusives because they're friends with everyone. They're
Right.
kind of journeymen, even though they're really good players, which is often not always the case. So they're friends with everybody.
Yeah.
They're friends with they played with Curry, they played with Kobe, their interview with Kobe is really, really good. But stuff like that's cool. Again, going back to like Johnny Depp, I don't know why that name popped in my head, but he doesn't have a podcast.
No.
You know what I mean? Like these athletes, maybe they have a more entrepreneurial mind because it's not a money thing. You could argue these NBA guys are making more than some of these celebrities.
I think a lot of it is fighting boredom.
Maybe that too.
Yeah, I need to do a creative thing to fight my boredom.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe.
Anyway, we always try to evaluate these things on our own scale, and the thing that this is just I'm pandering here, but I'm going to pander anyway. My scale is going to be 1 to 5 black mambas.
I'm gonna go. I'm basing this on other documentaries that we've covered on the show.
Okay.
Right. I'm probably gonna go like a 4.4, maybe a 4.5. Let's go to 4.8.
Okay.
I thought it was pretty good.
I was going to say 4.5.
Yeah.
It's very well executed. If you are more of a basketball fan than I am, you'll enjoy it even more than I did.
Yeah.
If you're an Olympics fan, you'll probably get it as well.
I think so. I just don't like. My mom doesn't even like basketball that much. She likes soccer more and shit. And she'd probably like it. You know, I think most people would like the interpersonal stuff. And Kobe's such a household name.
Yeah.
I think the worst rating from one of our audience would be like a 4. Like it's good. You're gonna like it.
Yeah, probably so.
And we don't recommend a ton here.
No. All right, let's wrap this one up.
Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for listening. 3sb.co for all your apparel needs. New drop coming within the upcoming weeks. If you want to get involved, 50percentfacts.com. You can join our Discord. It's a group chat. It's where everyone's hanging out. It's an app. We just have a group chat where you kick it. You get exclusives. You get early access to all our drops. And I'm sick and tired of you guys asking about restocks. We don't do them. New things are coming. You got to act fast, act soon. New episodes every Wednesday and Friday. I'm Solid Mike. Where you want to find me?
I am at the Jim McD on all the social media. Yeah, my voice is still a little blown. It's allergy season for me. It's always allergy season for me, particularly in the fall and the spring and sometimes the winter and often the summer. This show is 50% Facts, where percent is a word and 50 is just numbers. 50% Facts is a Spreaker Prime podcast in association with iHeartMedia on the Obscure Celebrity Network, where you should check out the other shows as well, Stimmed Out with the Game Day guys and hashtag Coffee Time with Noah Kinsey. And we'll talk to you on Friday.